Welcome once again to everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. You're all here for a webinar on helping your child shine in primary one, right? Today we are going to share with you some of the things that you need to know before your child gets into primary one, and also the things that you need to know when supporting your child, even when they are in primary one. Okay, so we're very honored this evening to have two lovely speakers. We have Miss Nicole and Miss Kai En, and they are two very experienced early years teachers, and they also teach primary level as well. So that when we talk about transition, they know exactly what they're talking about because they have actually seen it in their own students as well. Okay, so please feel free to ask questions later if you're not sure about anything, or it could just be a question that you've been thinking about before joining us this evening. You can do so by either just typing in the chat, or even there's a Q&A option as well. You can also use that one, and we will try to answer your question as best we can and as timely as possible. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, I think we can start by doing a poll, all right? And the first poll is basically we just want to know more about your child. Okay, so let me just launch this poll very quickly. Okay, so I hope everyone is able to see the poll questions there. All right, let me just read it out in case you can't see it clearly. All right, so first question, what is your biggest concern about your child starting primary one? Is it academic readiness? Is it making friends, managing emotions and anxiety? Yeah, please choose the most appropriate answer there. If you scroll down, there's also a second question. How confident are you that your child can adapt to primary school? So again, this is more about yourself as well. You know, how confident you are about your child's ability to adapt, right? Are you very confident? Are you slightly worried, perhaps? Yeah. Okay, that's the second question. Third question. Which area does your child need the most support in right now? Okay, so there are a few options there. Is it reading and writing? Is it math, number sense, social skills, right? Yeah, so those are some of the options. And fourth question, what would you most likely like to learn about today? Yeah, okay, so there are a few options there as well. So please, yeah, participate in this poll. I'm going to leave it up for a few more seconds, and then we'll look at the results. Okay, I can see that majority so far, one of the concerns is adjusting to a new environment. Yes, that's a very valid concern, and we will talk about that today. Yes. Adapting to primary school. Okay, it's good that I see quite a number of you are quite confident. Some are not too sure. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Yeah. Some are slightly worried. That's also fair. Yeah. More area that your child needs most support in right now. This is quite an even spread, I would say. Reading and writing, yes. Social skills, yes. I think these are the top two at the moment. Mm, oh, as well as emotional regulation. That's something we're going to speak about as well later. Okay, it's good that you are aware of this. And lastly, let's see, what would you want to most likely learn about today? Seems like the top answer so far is helping them adjust emotionally. Yes, that's consistent to the previous question as well. Okay, let me just leave it up for another 5 seconds or so. Okay, I think I'm gonna just end the poll right now. Okay, so yes, I think your concerns, about academic readiness, about adjusting to the new environment, these are the top two answers that we will address tonight. Okay, that's good. Um, yes, reading and writing, social skills, emotional regulation, these are the top three. about in terms of support, the support that your child needs, and what you want to learn today. Yeah, the top answer is helping them adjust emotionally, and yeah, we will talk about that as well. Okay, great. So now that we've got that poll uh out of the way, all right, let's move on to the presentation proper. Okay, so Miss Kayan, would you like to take over at this point?
Yep. Okay. All right. So today what we're gonna be doing is I will go through the different gaps and I'm gonna separate them into the non-academic and then the academic components.
Hmm.
After from preschool to primary school, for some children, it may seem like a big leap. Yeah, so to them, like for children not as adaptable, they may find like this change can be a bit more overwhelming. So I will be going through like what changes to expect and then also how or what as parents we can help to bridge these gaps for them. Yeah, so like I mentioned, the leap from play, because in preschool, mainly they learn through play, they explore, they discover, they create a lot of outdoor fun, a lot of movement. And then if you compare to in primary school, where the setting is a bit more structured, you're expected to be on the desk for longer periods. And then there's a curriculum to follow, there's a routine that's set up for them and the hours can be a bit longer for especially for children who are not in childcare or yeah, maybe like kindergarten time, maybe 3 hours kind of thing. So to
Hmm.
them, that kind of change, it can be a stretch. And also in primary one, you're expected to complete their task more independently, so lesser guidance from teacher because the class setting is much bigger. So
Hmm.
I think in preschool, the class size is just about half or less than half of what is expected in primary school. So the kind of individual attention given from the teacher will also be reduced. So sometimes, pupils they may struggle with different needs, but the teacher may not be aware as well. So yeah. So the it's quite a big transition for for most preschoolers to primary school students. But with the right preparation, then they should be able to adapt comfortably. Let me go to the next one. Yeah. So the four different areas of struggle that I will be going through today will be, of course, academic, and then, but of course, not neglecting the behavioral, emotional, and the social aspects as well. So academic is quite straightforward. Most of them, because of the subjects, the introduction of English, Chinese, math, all these things, they can come a bit there are different expectations for the child. So
Hmm.
some of them can be a bit more advanced, and then some of them may have not really been exposed to such academic work.
Hmm.
So this will be what we will be addressing. And then behavioral and emotional are very common as well. And in fact, behavioral emotional aspects of the child can be um it's actually because sorry because in terms of behavioral and emotional, some children they are not able to adapt very well, so they may have different behavioral um or like emotional outbursts. And then parents may get worried because of the different changes in their child. So we'll be going through what we can do to help them cope. And social wise, most of them, I believe, because of their preschool, this is not too much of a concern, but it may be for children who are a bit more shy. And
Hmm.
then we will be going through that as well. So I will I will break down one by one. So for academic, components, reading and writing are usually tied together. So I actually put them together. Reading and writing in terms of stamina, fluency, expression, and comprehension. So for stamina wise, many actually struggle to sustain the kind of focus and energy for this kind of longer task. So in short, we call it the reading and writing stamina. So some of them are not able to sit through um, an entire hour maybe, or maybe 1 hour is a max. So like, but then for primary school, it runs on for a few hours. So that may be a challenge for them to be actually be on their desk and then to complete a task, to complete a writing exercise, or to do reading in school. So fluency and expression, very much the same, but it's actually quite different because fluency is about reading smoothly and accurately. So most of the children at the age 6, most of them are able to read and recognize sight words. But for expression wise, it's a bit different because um, it's a lot about bringing the words to life. So pupils may be stronger at fluency, at reading fluency, but then they lack the expression, which is quite a common sight. So most of them can read, but then they're not able to express very well. So this can be like an area where they will struggle with expressing or understanding. So when we move on to comprehension, it's a lot about understanding text as well. So for comprehension component, they are supposed to read and understand and then make inferences or express thoughts about what they read. But most children, they tend to be very focused on reading fluency.
Mm.
To them, reading is recognizing all the words and then moving on from it. Yeah, but then most of them do not read to understand, and then it can hinder their comprehension skills. So
Mm.
if I were to look through here, so for reading, mostly we have phonics sight words. So early exposure to reading time and guided writing can actually build this kind of endurance and confidence to stay on task. So most of the students, they they can find it a bit challenging if they were to complete a writing exercise. Most of them are not able to keep up with the writing, maybe because of the lack of practice. So the kind of strength they have may not be as strong. So they tend to write and then they will get tired easily.
Mm.
And in terms of focus as well, they will lose focus because they're not used to sitting for a longer periods of time. So they tend to move about also. So to establish a routine to build stamina and focus is actually quite essential. And then guiding them to read with rhythm also, phrasing will help them to connect emotionally with the text. So like what I mentioned just now, the fluency and expression um very closely tied with reading, but then it's actually two separate matters. So it's not just about decoding the text, but also understanding what they're reading, understanding the story, understanding the intention behind the text, and which will help them with their comprehension skills that I will give examples later. And then
Miss Kayan, sorry if I can just add in a bit. I totally agree with what you said, especially when it comes to the reading.
mm,
And we know that uh, there has been a change in the PSLE very recently. So I know I'm talking about PSLE now, which is many years down the road for your children if they are in P1 next year. But this change actually affects the oral component of the PSLE. Now they place a very heavy emphasis on oral. And like what Miss Kayan shared earlier, reading is not simply decoding, right? It's also about expressing. So much so that the oral test will ask you to read in a certain manner. Like you have to actually have to take the role of a certain character and then deliver the reading, which is a lot different from back when I did the oral test. Yeah, so this thing about fluency is also about understanding purpose of the text. All that plays into their reading ability, which is what Miss Kayan was sharing a bit earlier. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yes. Please continue.
Yeah, so this is actually a very common sighting that we have in class as well. Most of them are able to read fluently. They are able to recognize quite a good number of words, but then to get them to express with varying tones or like to ask them deeper into the like text, they are unable to give us a bit more information. They tend to be able to just read fluently.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but later I'll go through some of the oral examples also that we
Sure.
have.
Mm,
So yes, so to actually bridge this, what we can do is to always, build the habit of thinking while reading. So when we talk about bridging this academic gap, it's not just about teaching more content, but also to teach them the kind of skills and habits that they need. Yeah, so the skills are quite essential because it actually help them with the strategies by giving them the strategies to actually cope a bit better. Yeah. Next one we have the behavioral part. Yeah, so behavioral part a lot also about the attention and focus. When they some students are not used to that kind of attention span, in a longer setting, they tend to move about. And then classroom expectations in primary school is very different. You're expected to sit down, you're expected to be at your position, like be at your desk throughout a 1 hour lesson maybe. Yeah, so for some students they may not be quite used to it, especially when in preschool it's a bit more free and easy and the lessons are much shorter. So for expectation also, when teachers expect students to follow routines, complete assignments on time, manage themselves with less help, some children are just not used to this kind of structure expectations also. In terms of task, in primary school, usually there are like they have to complete given work within a time frame. So
mm,
maybe the teacher will say, okay, you have 30 minutes to complete this independent task. So maybe the teacher will spend the first half of the lesson going through, and then you're supposed to try it out on your own.
mm,
But some students may not have the kind of confidence yet, or the or not they are they like independent enough to complete the task on their own. So some students they need a bit more hand holding, a bit more guidance if they are not used to doing tasks independently. So the teacher may overlook what they need and then they end up struggling alone at their desk. Responsibilities also, I think most parents are very worried because in primary school they're expected to be more responsible in a way. They're supposed to know how to buy their food, they're supposed to know how to pack their bags, they're supposed to know what to bring to school, things like that. So they have to take responsibility now for their work and belongings. So, in preschool, maybe it's like you have a shelf and then most of them will put their school bags there. And then teacher will help to arrange their bottles and stuff like that. But in a school setting, you are responsible for your own school bag, your own belongings, your own bottle. You're supposed to know how to organize your own desk. But but in preschool, it's a common desk. So maybe you do not really, take out your own stationeries, have your bottle on the table. Yeah, but now it's like you're expected to know like what are the do's and don'ts. But
mm,
not most of the children may understand, like okay, what are the do's, what are the don'ts, especially those who may have a bit more difficulty or not used to organizing their own stuff on a daily basis.
mm,
So for this part, so confident preschoolers also can feel, uncertain when routines or teachers or expectations suddenly change. So from starting primary one, it can be a very big milestone, like what we mentioned. And this kind of fears and anxieties may affect some children. Not all, but of course, confident, independent learners are usually the ones that are able to adapt a bit faster. But there are definitely a handful of those who are also not as adaptable to changes, and then they may have their own fears and anxieties. So these feelings are actually completely normal, but they can also affect how well the child settle in and learn. So um for example, task completion, most of them have a lot of guidance, like teachers helping them to open
Mhm.
lunch boxes, or like reminding what to do next. But in primary one, then maybe it's a bit hard to handle things a bit more independently, like what I mentioned. So the daily routine for learning habits can also be taught at home. Maybe you can do like a practice session with your child before they go to school, get them, to maybe try it out, try taking their things out from your bag, and then like telling them, okay, maybe maybe where to put your pencil case, or like how to clean up after every lesson. So I think now in school, what they encourage is after every lesson, the textbooks for the previous lesson has to be kept either under the table or in the bag. So the table is always clean
Yeah.
without stack of worksheets or stack of books
Mhm.
around. Yeah. So you can actually do this at home, so just for them to get a sense of like how to take things out and in, putting it back in. Because in fact, taking things out and putting things back in can be also a challenge, because they may not know how to, do do that particular action. Yeah, and then for task completion, again, like what we mentioned, the perseverance, focus, and attention, very much it's a very big leap. So this can affect the in terms of behavioral, because sometimes they are just not used to it, and then they have to move around. So
Mhm.
they're used to moving around, and then it becomes a behavioral issue in school. And a teacher may think that, oh, you do not know how to follow instructions, or you are not listening. You may not understand like what are the classroom expectations. So it becomes like a bad like a how I put it, like a bad mark on your child. Yeah, so what very importantly, the stamina to actually get them, to be more task oriented is actually important as well. Like to for them to understand that, okay, I need to complete this task and this expected of me. And then they kind of able to regulate that kind of talk, and then emotionally, and on their own. Yeah, so yeah, so I think in that way it kind of helped them cope a bit better also, rather than them having thrown to something that's so new and then having to take note of so many things all at once. So for emotional, like I mentioned, there is this fear and anxiety, because some students, they are a bit more independent, but some are not. Then the demands from the teachers. So demands are a bit like expectations as well. And also there will be changes in school, the transition, and there can be kind of separation anxiety, very different from what they experience in preschool, because they have already gotten used to that. And then now they are being set in another new environment. So where there are a lot of new faces, new friends, um, they may experience this again. Yeah, so it's absolutely normal. It's just that we have to prep them a bit more. So for the shift to formal schooling actually will bring this kind of new demands, both mentally and emotionally. So um the sudden increase in demands can be a bit stressful or discouraging for them. If like maybe the daily homework at the start, maybe there won't be, but over time, when they're expected to complete like daily homework, right, for instance, or teamwork, or they're supposed to come up with a group work or things like that, something that are very new or not part of their usual routine, they can be a bit more overwhelmed. Yeah, so the change also can be a bit unsettling. Like I mentioned, a new environment, new teachers, new classmates. So even small changes in this kind of routine can cause anxiety for some children. Or maybe it can be like waking up early in the morning. Like, some kindergarten session starts at 11:30. So having to wake up at like 6:30 or like 6 o'clock can be a huge change also for them. So with this kind of change as well, it can be, even for adults, it can be a bit hard to adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then separation, like I mentioned, because um it can be the first time where they are being apart from their parents for an extended day. Um, Usually like maybe in kindergarten as well, 3 hours, and then now it's about like 6 hours. It can feel quite a stretch. So for um I will combine emotional and social together, and then I'll go through the different points. So for social wise as well, when they step into primary one, they're not just learning about new subjects, but they're also entering this bigger social world because they meet new classmates and they interact in a larger group. So like I mentioned in primary school, I think it's a class of 40, 30 to 40. So as compared to in preschool, where the class size is a bit smaller. So they have to learn how to navigate friendships and social expectations. So some children can adjust easily, but some may actually struggle with teamwork or empathy or handling disagreements. They're not used to like, having conflicts as well. So for teamwork wise, in preschool, group activities are usually guided very closely by teachers. But in primary one, there may be times where they need to collaborate a bit more independently. Maybe the teacher say, let's work in groups of five. It can be very simple, like maybe just drawing something or just expressing something. That because it's a more independent task, children may not know how to get along or how to share ideas. Or to receive ideas from or feedback from friends as well. So, working together on tasks, taking turns, sharing ideas, all these kind of things can be something very new to them. And empathy wise also, like the ability to understand and care about how others feel. Some children can actually find it a bit harder to recognize emotions. So like maybe their friends can get upset at them, but then to them they're a bit more oblivious. You're like, I'm not too sure how you're feeling. It can be very innocent, but then yeah, but then because they are still so young, their social cues also not as sensitive. So they may not know how to respond when their friends are upset. Which I think most of our experience in school as well. There are a lot of crying, and then when
Mm.
your friends cry, you do not really know what to do, what to say. You don't really know what's going on. Yeah, so I think this is a common journey that they will have to go through as well.
Mm.
And this will definitely lead to conflict. So disagreements are actually just a normal part of the social growth. So even at workplace, we also have different disagreements. But of course, as adults, we know how to handle it a bit better. But for children, they tend to react more quickly when upset. So there's a lot more expressive, and then it may turn into something more aggressive. So they may not know who to reach out to as well. So in school conflicts, we have to teach them like, okay, if there's a conflict, like you have to seek the teacher. Yeah, instead of taking things on your own. Yeah. And then there are also boundaries that they have to watch out for, because boundaries are very important. It can be personal and social as well. So children need to know like what kind of behavior is acceptable in class, and how to respect personal space, and when to listen and take turns. I think social wise, um a lot of cases are bullying also. So it's very important to tell them what's right, what's wrong, and where to draw the line. So this kind of boundaries we need to establish from a young age so they know, what lines we cannot cross. Yes. So both emotional and social gaps, very importantly, is like for example, boundaries. We need to set very clear but gentle boundaries through routines or consistent expectations. So we need to help them understand that the rules are not punishments and there's a way to keep everybody safe, respected, happy. Or like we can encourage them, okay? Like for example, because of the change, the transition from preschool to primary school, the kind of change they may not be confident or they may not know that I'm actually capable of this change. So it's good that as parents we continue to encourage them and get them to express themselves also. Like maybe after school you can ask them like to share their day, share what they do or any challenges they face. And from there we can then help them and guide them accordingly or know like what kind of help is needed so that we can guide them more effectively. We also need to be positive. So whenever they share something with us, whether or not it's mistakes or experiences, we shouldn't shut them down. We should in fact encourage them to open more and tell us a bit more. So even if they make a mistake or in school or stuff like that, we we do not be quick to judge the situation or to blame them for it. And little effort or achievements we should acknowledge. Like for example, them telling you, oh mommy, today I bought my I'm able to buy my own food, something like that. Then we need to acknowledge the kind of effort that they put in, like how brave they were, or like very proud of how independent they're actually growing. Mm. So um this part here, we are actually going to talk about how we can support your child and how we at Eton Academy we usually partner parents for this kind of through their journey in their primary one. So yeah, so we are always looking for ways to support your child and partnering parents. So what we will be sharing will be on both English and math. So we'll be focusing on the literacy and the numeracy readiness. We'll also be sharing with you um how yeah, how we actually nurture this kind of independence and self-discipline through the work, or like how we have small group learning for the kind of individual attention and how we bridge the preschool and primary one curriculum. So for English wise, there are 6 areas. We have listening, reading, speaking, and also writing, grammar, and vocabulary. So I will be going into listening first. Yeah, so like I mentioned, for listening wise, they are expected to listen attentively for a sustained period. So let's say teacher is starting a new topic. So it can be an introduction to uh, a new topic. And that kind of explanation will take time. So it can be like a 34 to 40 minutes kind of thing. So they are expected to listen attentively so that they can work on their exercise after. But it may not be something that most children can sit through. So and then you're also supposed to recognize or understand letter sounds, sight words, rhythm of speech. So for this part, right, like I mentioned, most of them are quite fluent in reading, but then they may need a bit more support with vocabulary and also the expression wise, which involve the rhythm of speech, and then also deepening understanding in conversations by drawing prior knowledge. So this part is the expression part where students are supposed um to provide a bit more based on their own experiences and then express their thoughts and opinions. But it can be quite a challenge for those who are not used to expressing themselves so much yet. So for example, what we do, we usually ask open-ended questions about stories in class or things we share or shows we have watched. For example, for this worksheet, they're supposed to watch a video about deforestation, and then they're supposed to share and express themselves in front of the class to share their take or their thoughts about deforestation. So this will actually help them have the habit of being able to express themselves a bit more confidently and getting them just used to standing up, like a bit more like public speaking experience. Yeah, so sometimes they understand the concept, but they may not be able to find the correct words, or they may not be able to come up with the correct sentence structure whenever they try to say out. Yeah. They may have a lot in their mind, but then it's all stuck here. Then they tend to just, pause and then try to find the correct words. Yeah, so it's about constant practicing and getting them to continue doing it, getting used to it, where they are then a bit more confident in in completing the task. So reading and speaking wise, I grouped them together because it's quite similar. So mainly, what we do is for comprehension wise, they're supposed to read to understand. So they are supposed to build on their inferential skills. But the thing is, like what we mentioned, they tend to read fluently, but not being able to actually infer from the text. So they may just read like, oh, he walked around his home, the forest, with heavy steps and watery eyes. There were no birds, trees, or plants to be seen. But they do not really understand the meaning behind this paragraph. So when the question asks about how the giant feel, they are supposed to actually extract from this understanding based on these two lines to depict how when when they read the text, like how much can they infer from how the giant was feeling. So through like heavy steps and watery eyes, they are supposed to infer that, oh, the giant may be feeling sad. So whenever we can do storytelling with our children, you can also encourage your child to articulate their opinions on the story. So you can ask questions. It can be a simple storybook, but at maybe different juncture, you can ask or pause to just ask your child like, oh, what do you think about the story? And next, oral confidence. So I think this is something very similar to what Hugh mentioned. Oral confidence very important. So it's more than just recognizing words. We're supposed to express ourselves a bit better. So we have different kind of tips, different kind of checklists where students are supposed to go through it and know what are the reading aloud tips, like what are the good habits, and then whether or not they did it correctly, whether or not they read with expression and feelings, whether or not they stop and pause when needed. So again, we can actually use play. So maybe you can give them a short paragraph and then get them to try it on their own. And then you can have a play session, like each of them will come out and take turns. And then we will get their friends to actually do the checklist for them. And then we can see like, oh, who did it better, or what we can learn from our peers as well. For writing wise, most of them are able to already write online paper. So for the picture on the left, it's actually a book that they will have in primary one, where they're supposed to copy the text on the dotted line. So usually they will start off with the stellar handwriting, And then, but for students, most of them are already used to this handwriting, as in writing online paper. So this shouldn't be a problem for most of the 6-year-old. So, but to push them a bit more, advancing into really writing stories, what we do is we actually guide the children to start writing short stories. So we will reinforce like teaching terms like your 5 Ws, 1 H, your what, when, where, what, when, why, who, and how. So we get them to elaborate a bit more on each picture and then put them together in simple sentences first, just so they get a feel on how to do composition writing. So these are the different writing strategies as well, where we will break down the components of a story and how we actually teach them to describe feelings through appearance and actions. So instead of just telling the person that he was happy, we can use actions and appearance to describe this emotion instead. And then for grammar part, most of the time we have games. So you can use like snake and ladder where the question's on top and then they're supposed to choose the correct answer below. So this can help reinforce their learning in class. And of course, there's always practices and more practice so that they are able to reinforce their grammar rules that are actually modeled after exam components. Vocabulary is something that most students are afraid of. So usually we tend to have a word for the week. So it's just to get them into the habit of learning one new word a week. And they're supposed to come up with their own sentence after the example given. And also, good habit will be by creating this vocabulary journal where it's a bit more fun. There's a like cut and paste where students, can collect all this cutout sheet that they can do on their own at home, and then maybe create their own vocabulary journal with a new word that they're supposed to search on the internet. Maybe search the meaning, search where it came from, how do we use it, and what's your takeaway, just to create the constant habit of learning new words so that they actually do not avoid the task. Yeah, because usually whenever we give them a new word, they tend to like, what is this? Yeah, so it will be more fun if they can actually do it in their own way of learning. So it gets encourages them a bit more. Yeah, that's all. So
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Kayan. I know there was a lot for you to digest as well, participants. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat or the Q&A tab as well if you have any. Now let's just move on to the next component with Miss Nicole. Now she's going to be sharing more about maths, if I'm not wrong, right? Miss Nicole, take it away. Miss Nicole, yeah. Okay, while waiting for Miss Nicole to come in, let's shall we start? Shall we do the poll, Miss Nicole? What do you think?
Yes, we can do the poll.
Okay, let me launch the poll first.
Yes.
Right. Okay, here we go. All right, there are a few questions in the poll as well. Um, Again, this is more about maths. So, how confident are you in supporting your child's math learning at home? That's the first question. Second question, what is your biggest concern about your child's P1 math journey? And third question would be, which part of math do you think your child will struggle with the most? So there are quite a few options there. And the last question is, how often do you revise math topics with your child? Okay, so kindly answer the poll and let's see what we have here. Okay, I can see that for the first question, how confident are you in supporting your child's maths learning? We have somewhat confident, okay. All right, so no one is very confident. Okay, I think that's fair. Uh, what's a biggest concern? Okay, this is a very even spread here. Okay, so yeah, the first one, right? Lack of exposure to mathematical thinking and concepts, yes. Struggling with word problems for sure. Getting bored due to lack of challenge. Okay, so I guess that that might be a good thing in a sense that they already know their maths really well. Okay, quite a good spread there. Next one, let's see. Which do you think your child will struggle with the most? Yes, definitely word problems is quite one of the common areas in students. Concept of place value. Okay, that's the other one. Yep. Okay, good. And lastly, how often do you revise? Okay. I see most of you revise occasionally. Okay, that's not too bad. But I still see responses saying I leave it to school. Okay, so maybe that's something we can talk about as well. Okay, I'm going to close the poll right now, and then I'll let Miss Nicole continue from there. Okay, so take it away, Miss Nicole.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for being here. So I'm Miss Nicole, and today we're going to explore how we can build a strong, confident foundation in mathematics for your children as they prepare for the exciting journey into primary one. So what I'll be doing is I'll be splitting into two, which is first will be the expectations, and then the next part will actually be the how Eton Academy can help both you and your kid in this topic of mathematics. So our goal isn't to teach them numbers, but actually to equip them with the thinking skills as to how to solve the problems effectively. And it will also, in this part of the math section, it will also empower you as a partner in your child's learning, and also will explore what to expect, and also most importantly, how you at home can provide simple and effective support to them. Okay, so now let's see how we can do this. So the primary one maths curriculum is basically built on a few core pillars. So you can expect your child to be engaging with first whole numbers. This is the foundation going all the way up to 100. And then the four operations: addition, subtraction, and an introduction to the concepts of multiplication and division. And then next, it will be measurement and geometry, which includes time, money, and also 2D shapes. And finally, an introduction to statistics through simple graphs. It might sound like a lot, but actually these concepts are introduced in a very structured and a very child-friendly way. So let's move on. Okay, so this slide actually outlines one of the core pillars for the primary one mathematics curriculum. So think of it as a foundation that we built together. So the central focus here is whole numbers, which is the essential. And we will explore numbers all the way up to 100. So building directly from this, the children will be introduced to fundamental operations, addition, subtraction, and the core concepts behind multiplication and division. Okay, and then finally, let me go back. Okay, and then for practical maths, and we make maths more relatable and practical by introducing money. So this is a fantastic and a real world context for applying their number skills, because in school they will need to buy their own food. So they will need to grasp their own concepts of money on how much they should give to the canteen uncles and aunties. Yeah, so in short, it is a structured move from understanding numbers to using them in various and meaningful ways. Okay, so for okay, so how you can support your child at home is that it's actually simpler than you think. So you can actually integrate maths into your daily life. So for whole numbers and operations, you can turn supermarket runs into counting games, or you can play board games with them like snakes and ladders that involve dice and moving pieces. So this actually helps to build number sense, and also subtizing, which is recognizing a small number of objects. without counting. So subitize means to actually instantly know the number of objects in a group without counting them. So for example, a child holding up four fingers. So instantly knowing that there are four without counting. So a pair of dice that shows a total of 6 without counting, that is also, that's the meaning of subtleties. So it is a foundation skill in mathematics that helps with number sense and also mental calculation. So counting, we can also use math link cubes. So for example, I have this here. These are actually like math link cubes, if you could see. Yeah, and then also we can use our fingers and also number line like you see here in the slide. Right, moving for expectations for money, time, mass, and weight, and 2D shapes. So this actually outlines the measurement and geometry side of the maths curriculum. So here, children actually learn to understand and describe the world around them. They will be introduced to concepts such as time, so learning to read clocks and understand daily schedules. So mass and weight too, comparing which object is heavier or lighter. And they will also learn how to identify and describe common 2D shapes and get their first practical experience with money, recognizing coins, recognizing notes, and also understanding their value. So this area of math is about connecting the classroom learning into a tangible everyday world that your child is in. Okay, so how can you help your child at home with measurement and geometry? So it's actually also very simple to make it hands-on and integrate it with parts of your daily life. So first, we need to build their sense of time. So use language like maybe 5 minutes or for 1 hour during daily routine. So you need to let your children know that, oh, okay, we have 5 minutes left. So then they will have that concept that, oh, I might not have enough time, that 5 minutes is all I have. Yeah. Then next, you can let them play with measuring tools, like in the kitchen, let them help you measure ingredients. During bath time, give them cups to explore volume. And actually, the goal is actually to help them with to acquire the practical experience. So like when they pour water from a tall glass to a wide bowl, they are learning about conservation of volume. And then when they help you weigh a fruit at a grocery store, they are understanding the units of measurement for it. So these are actually real world experiences that create a understanding that makes classroom learning stick to them. All right, now let's move on to this part of the picture graph. Yes, so actually, we introduce children to the world of data through statistics. Okay, so statistics seems like a very big word. Like you will probably ask, oh, just learning statistics so young. It is actually a term that is used for picture graphs or bar graphs. Yeah, so this is an example of a picture graph. So these graphs actually use simple pictures and actually symbols, like each triangle here is representing a single item to make the information visual and easy for them to understand. So then the key skills that we focus are on reading a graph. So what kind of information we can find from the graph and also comparing the data. So children also learn to answer questions like, oh, who has the most? Or how many more does Sarah have than Molly? So these are like keywords that children are to be exposed to so that they know which is more, which is less. So it's actually a fun and engaging way to actually develop early data literacy and also critical thinking skills, teaching them how to interpret information from a visual format. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so here is the statistics where we relate real life scenarios. So we have data collection, and then we have graph around us and also how they can integrate graphs. So how do we do that is to actually notice graphs that are around us. So like in storybooks, in weather charts, or even like sports scores. So you can ask your child to actually interpret what they see using comparison words like most, least, more than, fewer than. You can also create fun data collection activities together. For example, when you're out on a walk or when you're playing at home, you can ask them, oh, let's count how many blue and white cars we see in 5 minutes. the aim is actually to relate statistics to real life scenarios, and also this transform the abstract graphs into meaningful stories, showing them that actually data is just a way of understanding the world that revolves around them. All right, now for maths language, maths has its own vocabulary as compared to English, and understanding these words is already winning half the battle. So words like fewer than, more than, groups of, and sharing equally are direct signals for mathematical operations. So when you use these comparison words in everyday conversation, you are directly building your child's readiness for problem solving in the classroom. So for example, sum and difference it actually says plus and minus, and then tying together with comparison words. And then next we have groups of, which is the multiplication side of maths. So it's the times, and then sharing equally would be divide. So so the key is to let your child understand these words link to the plus, minus, times, multiplication, and division of the math concept. Then they are able to actually really win half the battle already. All right, so let's move on to how we can continue this word problem and graph. So we're going to first we are going to expose them, so concrete. So which is why we actually have this number 10 blocks there, so the whole long thing is actually 10, and then the small little ones actually consist of 1. So then how are we going to make these abstract concepts understandable for a 6-year-old? So we use powerful teaching sequence such as the CPA approach, which is concrete, pictorial, and then abstract. So concrete, which is the doing stage, so they actually have the things, they have a physical item that they have in hand, so like objects like blocks, coins, or even cupcakes to solve a problem. Then pictorial is where we move on from concrete. It is the seeing stage, whereby representing these objects with drawings and diagrams. And then abstract is the symbolic stage, whereby they use numbers and symbols, like for example 32 minus 20 will get 12. So then we move through these stages to ensure a deep and genuine understanding before moving to abstract equations. So this is the heart of how we build the mathematical thinking here. All right, so now progression in the skills and early exposure to the foundation skills. So a key part of our math progression is giving children an early exposure of it, and also building their strong number sense. So you can see an example here with the column addition. This isn't just about getting the right answer, 30 plus 17. It's about understanding the value of getting the numbers. So by organizing the numbers in tens and then in ones, the children visually see that 30 is actually 3 tens, and then 17 is actually 1 10 and 7 ones. So this concrete understanding of place value is actually critical to building block of all the future math, and also including more complex addition and subtraction. So we introduce these structured methods early to actually build confidence and a deep conceptual understanding from the start. So mathematical language is actually very, very important. So phrases like groups of are the building blocks of multiplication. So for example, you see 3 groups here with like 3 stickers. So we can describe this as 3 groups of 3. So this language actually helps children visualize multiplication as equal grouping and not just an abstract fact. So you can practice this at home during everyday moments, like setting the table, putting the toys away in boxes, or even sharing snacks. So using the phrase groups of helps your child to build a strong and visual understanding of multiplication before they even learn the formal symbols. All right, so now let's actually wrap it up with the early exposure to different types of questions and progression in skills. So a key principle in our approach is early exposure to different question types. So what you see here are 3 different three different question types. And of course, familiarity breeds confidence. So by introducing children to various formats before they enter a formal exam setting, we remove the fear of the unknown and allow their mathematical understanding to truly shine. So we'll take a look at these three core questions that they will encounter. First will be the multiple choice question. So this isn't like entirely about throwing a dice and just guessing. So it's more about precise understanding. So for example, here it says that division means to. So the options might include put equal parts together, take away parts, make more equal parts, and then split the whole equal parts. It actually requires a clear and conceptual grasp of what division is. So the takeaway for you as a parent is to use the everyday language. So when you share a cake or when you share a snack, so use the word divide, and then through that you're building the conceptual understanding naturally to them. And then now moving on, we have short answer questions. So this involves actually visual data and actually two-step thinking for this. So what goes on here is that the child must first compare how many sets are, which of the two sets has fewer, and then calculate the difference, how many fewer here. So actually this moves beyond the simple counting, and then they start to develop an analytical skills. At home, you can try to practice this by actually asking, oh, do we have more apples or do we have more oranges? How many more? So it's simple, but actually a powerful way to develop their comparative and quantitative reasoning. And then lastly, we will move on to word problems, where I think most of you are concerned about them understanding the word problems. So this is where it all comes together. It's not just about calculation, it's about comprehension. So they need to understand what the question is asking before they can apply it. So the problem here is there are 27 children in the park, 18 went home. How many are left? So your child must first read the text first, identify the key numbers, understand the action when home means that something is being taken away, and then choose the correct operation, which is subtraction. So when you take away, it means minus subtraction. So you need to encourage your child to read these problems aloud and to tell you the story in their own words. It can be as simple as they can use a highlighter to highlight, or if not, they can use a pencil to circle the keywords. That will actually help them to actually zoom in on the words that are important, and then from there they're able to decipher which operation they should use. Yes, so in conclusion, so how can you help your child to shine? So first is you can talk about math in daily life, which is sharing, comparing, and also measuring. And then second is to encourage a growth mindset. It's okay to find a problem tricky. What matters is you going through it with them and allowing your child to go through, allowing your child to actually try. And then third is to practice these different question types in a low pressure and fun way. So actually in Eton Academy, so partnering with us will actually make math a familiar friend. And actually you are giving your child the greatest gift and the confidence to learn and then solve and then eventually succeed. Yeah, so thank you for your time, and we hope that you took some useful points home.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Nicole, for that very comprehensive sharing. So again, we hope you digested all that information. I know it's quite a fair bit. Now it's the Q&A section. I can see that we're running a bit late on time. So what we'll do is I will have a few questions here, but I'll respond. I'll type my responses in. So if you've put a question in, please stay with us and then wait for the written response in the Q&A tab. Okay, thank you so much for that. What I would like to do before we end is to share a little information. So you can just look at the next part of the deck. Yes, okay. So the good news is that this Sunday we are actually having an experience day at one of our centers at Great World City. So please join us on Sunday, and it's from 11 to 3 p.m. Okay, and you can register. There's a quick response code right there. Just scan and you'll be at the page where you can register. Now we are also going to talk about our after school care program. So our after school care program actually is at all our centers, not just at Great Wall Center City. But you can also inquire about the after school care program, which also includes English and math lessons as part of the package. Okay, so exciting stuff. Please check it out and get in touch with us if you have any questions. But again, if you can join us at Great Wall City to check out the premises and all that. Yeah. Uh, Next slide. I think you have one more. Yes, and also for all of you who are here today, if you would like to attend a trial lesson, okay, you get a one-for-one trial. All right, a one-for-one trial. And all you need to do is, again, put in the code webinar. All right, so you get a one-for-one trial, and you can take any of the subjects mentioned at any level as well. Let's say you have an older child that you want to send him or her to our centers to try out the lessons, please do that as well. But remember to put in the code webinar so you get a one-for-one trial at any of our 5 centers. Our latest center is at Mountbatten Community Center. So please pay us a visit wherever you are.